There was some serious black girl magic happening at last night's U.S. Gymnastics Championships. This is Simone Biles and her team at the championships. And all of them are women of color. This photo was taken not long before this happened.
Never been done before, and it's called the Biles. Wow.
I did gymnastics, and every time I see that, it gives me goosebumps all over my body, because she does that, there's gravity, and still she's able to do that. It's 3 twists and 2 flips, just to be clear. So wearing a leotard with goats, Simone Biles' well-deserved nickname, she made history by winning a 7th national all-around title. So we know she's going to the Tokyo Olympics, even if she hasn't technically qualified yet, because there's the Olympic trials in a couple of weeks and there's a whole process. It's very confusing. But that's not the only thing on her schedule. The athlete also has big plans for after the Tokyo Olympics. She's going to headline her own massive post-Olympics tour. The Gold Over America Tour, or GOAT, will hit 35 cities and will include other elite gymnasts like New Jersey's own Laurie Hernandez, but absolutely no men. And to be clear, the star of this tour is Simone Biles. As a former gymnast myself, I know it can be hard to separate yourself from the sports governing body and the fact that there are always judges judging you, but Biles is taking matters into her own hands. Her last post-Olympic tour, remember, was put on by USA Gymnastics, and it was very much colored by the Larry Nassar abuse scandal. So this time, she's making sure that nothing and no one takes away from her shine. And joining me now is Louise Radnofsky. She's a sports reporter for the Wall Street Journal and one of the journalists behind the new reporting about Biles' post-Olympics tour. Louise, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So Simone Biles I was a former gymnast. So when I say Simone Biles is better than any other athlete in her sport, I mean it, because I actually have a fundamental understanding in my body of how hard the skills that she is doing are. But for those who don't watch gymnastics, can you just explain and unpack for us, like, how good she is in the, all-time history of this sport?
So there are a few Biles skills to watch out for, particularly for people who might be tuning in the Olympic trials. One is the triple-double that you showed. There's a couple great examples of the triple-double from this weekend where she really just sticks the landing on this move that is very difficult, code expanding in its difficulty. It actually forced the International Gymnastics Federation to add a letter for rating the skills. They ran from A and they had to add a J for this skill. So that's one of the things to watch for. The other, of course, that everyone's talking about right now in particular, and you'll get a chance to see again, is the Yurchenko double pike vault. Also, boundary breaking in its difficulty has a provisional rating of a 6.6. Biles and her camp think it should be higher still. There's a pretty vivid debate going on about this right now. But if it were, in fact, performed in international competition and given a 6.6, it would be the hardest vault in the code, even harder than the current 6.4s that are in there. So that's really striking to look for. Look, I mean, I actually enjoy watching Simone Biles a lot on uneven bars right now, which is her least favorite apparatus.
I know.
She's just been doing fantastically well at it, particularly this go around. And I like watching Simone Biles this time around because she's older than she was in 2016, and she's proving that she can be a better gymnast, having been on top for this extraordinary run for an absolutely unprecedented run of time. There's turnover in gymnastics usually, and there just hasn't been turnover for the entire reign that she's been having since 2013. Really long time.
That's the thing that gets me. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, and so I quit gymnastics at 15. Like, I had reached my peak. I was too tall. I was 5'6". I was a little too tall. I was 15, so it was like, you go to the Olympics or you quit, or you go to college and you do it there, which a lot of people did too, but I switched sports. In this case, you're talking about 24-year-old Simone Biles. This is her second Olympics. And as I mentioned in the intro, it comes after, a really dark period for gymnastics and USA Gymnastics in particular. So speak to the fact that this tour that she's putting on post-Olympics is essentially her declaring her independence. And how is that being received?
It is her declaring her independence. I would correct you just a tiny bit and say she's been declaring her independence for a couple of years. I mean, this is an athlete in a judge sport who stood on the competition floor in 2019 and called out her own governing body, who at the time and to this day still have control over the events that she goes to represent the USA. That said, she on some level understands that she doesn't need them as much as they need her. So she is speaking her mind about what she sees as the institutional failures that allowed Larry Nassar to abuse gymnasts over a period of decades. There are a number of institutional failures in this scandal. We don't even have all of the answers to this day. It very much weighs on the people involved. And Simone Biles is extraordinary in some ways because she is the only one of those self-identified victims of Larry Nassar who's still competing at this level, which comes with its own extraordinary pressure and its spotlight. The tour is something that USA Gymnastics, which is currently in bankruptcy proceedings because of the scandal, is not running this year. It's not clear whether there would have been a tour had Simone Biles not agreed to be the face of it. And so as a result, it's happening, but it's hers. She's the face of it. It isn't the USA Gymnastics Tour. It isn't the whole Olympic roster and the men necessarily coming along. It's her and essentially her friends having what they say is going to have a kind of after party feel to it. And that's what they're hoping to be able to show.
It feels like it's good timing for this post-Olympics tour, especially a year in pandemic. It's a lot of girl power, and I'm looking forward to watching that. Louise Radnofsky, thank you so much for joining us tonight on a topic that I was very excited about as a former gymnast. I never thought I would be on a streaming show talking about gymnastics. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.